really a privilege and an honor to be here, more so to be able to speak to you about the work I do with refugees, in specific the Sahrawi refugees, who are the forgotten people of our continent. The Sahrawi refugees are in refugee camps because of an illegal occupation of 41 years. And 41 years is far too long. The Sahrawi refugees went into Algeria because of the illegal occupation by Morocco from 1975. And in 2017, for us to be sitting in a room and be speaking about occupation, to be speaking about colonization in this year, in a time and age where more than ever we have access to technology and information more than any generation before us. And yet we have Sahrawis who are still living in inhumane conditions, and they've still not been given the justice that they deserve. This is truly a shame on humanity. It's very sad to be in a place like this where we hear of so many of these kinds of atrocities that are happening the world over. There are far too many nations that are still fighting for self-determination, something that we must continue to push to have on our agenda. And the issue of Western Sahara must be one that we re-highlight and ensure that a referendum is held, that self-determination for the Sahrawi people comes to bear within an immediate time frame. Refugee camps were set up as temporary homes for the Sahrawis, yet 41 years later they are still living in these temporary homes. You can understand that because of the impacts of climate change, these people are most affected. The Sahrawi refugees have been affected by all kinds of climatic atrocities. Every time there are torrential rains, they lose everything. And we need to make sure that we highlight this issue outside of occasions such as this gathering, outside of important days of importance. We need to make sure that the issue of Western Sahara becomes something that is highlighted on our diplomatic agenda the world over, and we need to push that a solution comes to fore. The work that I do as an international human rights activist for the issue of Western Sahara is one close to my heart. I come from a country of freedom fighters, and of freedom fighters who had to live through a very dark, very dark history. And it's a history that so many lessons can be taken from. During the days of apartheid, I think very few people who lived during that time understood how much they had to fight to find the hope within them to fight the regime that they were fighting. And yet, South Africa has nearly reached 25 years of democracy, and this is a milestone. However, with that democracy comes a great responsibility, because with our rights and our freedom, we need to ensure that we unlock the freedom and the rights of others. And those are the people that we need to ensure that we are fighting for, and we're using our history to make sure that we are able to do what we can as a strong country on the continent. South Africa has a very strong position on the issue of Western Sahara. We recognize Western Sahara, and we will do all that we can to stand in solidarity and support of the Sahrawi people, in forums such as this, but outside of forums such as this. In civil society, we need to continue having these discussions and creating as much awareness and education of this illegal occupation and this human atrocity by Morocco on Western Sahara. MINURSO, which is the UN peacekeeping mission based in the occupied territory, does not monitor human rights. This is another point that needs to be dealt with, because we cannot have the human rights abuses that are happening to the people of Western Sahara happening, and they go unmonitored, unseen by the world. You have to really look for the footage. You have to know the Sahrawi, the Polisario, to understand what human rights violations are happening every single day to men, children, and women. And there are people in this very room that have been victims of unthinkable things, unthinkable abuse, and it is important that we do not forget that these are the things that must be highlighted today and every day forward until the Sahrawi people are given the justice that they deserve. I work as an activist on this issue not because somebody told me about it, not because somebody gave me documentation to read, not because I read about it somewhere, but because I have seen the situation myself. I travel extensively to the camps and have had the opportunity and privilege of being amongst the Sahrawi people and being amongst them in the environment that they live in. I get to go home, to a home where my human rights are protected, where I get to have freedom of speech. But they are stuck in refugee camps because a referendum has not been held like it was promised, because the situation has been aggravated by the Moroccans on a daily basis, and because political will is just not there. So for those of us who stand up for democracy, we will understand that democracy is a form of self-determination, and self-determination is a form of democracy. We need to make sure that the status quo changes, and not just for the Sahrawi people, but all of those that are still in occupied territories, all of those who are living under a form of colonialism. We must do all that we can to unlock the human rights that every single one of us deserves as a member of a global society that is free and that is just. We should not be having forums such as this, and we must strive to move forward to ensure that we are all respected in our individual capacities as human beings. It's a manner of humanity, and we will be the ones that will be questioned by generations that will come when we have forgotten the rights of those that we should have made sure that we found solutions for. Ladies and gentlemen, what choice do I have but to do the work that I do because I have seen the truth. Sahara Ali.